You know what finally pushed me over the edge? I was standing in the finishing aisle at the hardware store, staring at a wall of wood-stained cans, and I realized I was about to spend $35 on a quart of something that would make my white oak look like every other piece of white oak furniture on the internet. Same caramel tone, same flat, lifeless color sitting on top of the grain instead of living inside it. I'd been chasing a rich, deep finish for years, and nothing off the shelf ever quite got there. Then I stumbled across a Japanese finishing method that uses fermented persimmon juice as a wood stain. And I know how that sounds. I thought the same thing. But when I saw what it looked like on a piece of aged cedar, I honestly could not believe it. The color wasn't sitting on the surface. It was radiating out of the wood itself, this deep amber brown with warmth I've never gotten from a can. Today I'm going to walk you through exactly how this ancient method works, how you can make it at home with persimmons you can buy at the grocery store, and why it produces a finish that commercial stains simply cannot replicate. Plus, stick around to the end because I'll show you a trick using iron and vinegar that turns this same persimmon extract into a jet black ebonizing solution. Let's get into it. This technique is called kakishibu, and it's been used in Japan for over 1,000 years. It's one of the most versatile natural finishes I've ever worked with, and the remarkable thing is how accessible it is once you understand the process. Whether you're finishing furniture, small boxes, or even outdoor pieces, this approach gives you something no commercial stain can, a finish that actually changes and deepens with time instead of fading. So let me give you some background on where this comes from, because the history is what convinced me this wasn't just some novelty experiment. Kakishibu translates roughly to persimmon tannin, and it's been a part of Japanese daily life since at least the Heian period, which puts it somewhere around the 9th or 10th century. That's over 1,000 years of continuous use. And it wasn't just for finishing wood. They used it to waterproof paper umbrellas, to dye fishing nets so they'd resist rot in salt water, to preserve the wooden hulls of boats, and to strengthen fabric. When something gets used that many ways for that many centuries, it's not a folk remedy. It's a proven material. The craftsmen I learned the most from were traditional furniture makers and house builders in rural Japan who still use kakishibu as their primary wood finish. What struck me was how simple their process was. No mixing ratios printed on a label, no chemical smell filling the shop. Just crushed unripe persimmons, water, thyme, and sunlight. Their philosophy around finishing is fundamentally different from ours. Where we tend to think of stain as a cosmetic layer you apply to change the color of wood, they think of kakishibu as something that unlocks a color the wood already has inside it. The tannins in the persimmon juice bond with the cellulose fibers in the wood at a molecular level, and then sunlight triggers an oxidation reaction that deepens the color over days and weeks. The result is a tone that looks like it grew there, because in a real sense, it did. I was skeptical about all of this until I tried it myself. Now it's one of my favorite finishes in the shop. Let me walk you through the first and most important step, which is actually making the persimmon extract. You want unripe persimmons, and this is critical. Ripe persimmons are full of sugar and low in tannin. Unripe ones are packed with tannin, which is exactly what you need. If you've ever bitten into an unripe persimmon and felt that awful dry puckering sensation in your mouth, that's the tannin. The variety that works best is the Hachiya persimmon, which is the large acorn-shaped variety you can find at most Asian grocery stores and many regular supermarkets in the fall. You want them rock hard and green, or just barely starting to turn orange. Take about 2 pounds of unripe persimmons and crush them thoroughly. I use a heavy wooden mallet in a bucket, but a food processor works too. You want them broken down into a rough pulp. Then add enough water to just cover the pulp, roughly 1 quart per 2 pounds of fruit. Stir it well. Cover the bucket loosely so air can get in, but debris stays out, and set it somewhere warm. Now here's where patience comes in. Traditional kakishibu is fermented for 1 to 3 years. I know that sounds extreme, but you can get a very usable extract in as little as 7 to 10 days if you stir it daily and keep it in a warm spot, around 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. After about a week, strain it through cheesecloth into a glass jar. The liquid should be a murky reddish brown. It will smell strong, somewhere between vinegar and overripe fruit. That's normal. That's your finish. Now let me explain why this works so differently from commercial stain, because the chemistry here is genuinely fascinating. When you brush a commercial stain onto a board, the pigment particles sit in the pores and on the surface of the wood. That's why stain can look blotchy on woods like pine or cherry, because the absorption is uneven. The color is physically sitting on top of uneven terrain. Kakishibu works through a completely different mechanism. The tannin molecules in persimmon juice are small enough to penetrate deep into the wood fibers, and they chemically bond with the cellulose. This isn't a surface coating. It's a chemical transformation of the wood itself. Then, when ultraviolet light from the sun hits those tannin molecules, it triggers an oxidation reaction that produces a rich, warm brown. The more UV exposure, the deeper the color. This is why kakishibu finished pieces in Japan look more beautiful after 20 or 30 years, not less. The finish is literally part of the wood, so it doesn't peel, flake, or wear away the way a surface stain can. On woods with their own natural tannin content, like white oak or black walnut, the persimmon tannin amplifies what's already there. The result is a depth of color that honestly made me wonder why I'd been buying stain for 30 years. The application itself is simpler than any stain I've ever used, but there are a few things I learned the hard way. You want to apply kakishibu with a natural bristle brush or a clean cotton cloth. Work it into the wood with the grain, just like you would with any other finish. The first coat will look almost like dirty water on the surface. Don't panic. This is normal. It doesn't look like much at all when it first goes on. Let it dry completely, which usually takes about 4 to 6 hours indoors, and then apply a second coat. I typically do 3 to 5 coats total, letting each one dry fully before the next. Here's the key that nobody tells you. Between coats, set the piece in direct sunlight if you possibly can. Even an hour of afternoon sun between coats makes a dramatic difference. Each time you bring it back inside, you'll notice the color has shifted and deepened. After 3 coats with sun exposure between each one, I had a piece of white oak that looked like it had been aging in a barn for 50 years. The grain was popping, the color was this gorgeous reddish amber, and it was completely even. No blotching, no lap marks, just beautiful, warm, living color. By the way, if you are enjoying learning about these ancient methods, I put together something I think you will really appreciate. It is called Kenji's Workshop, and it is a collection of 100 ancient Eastern woodworking secrets for the modern craftsman, techniques like the ones we are covering today, and a whole lot more. You can grab your copy by scanning the QR code on screen, or just use the first link in the description. All right, let us keep going. Now, one of the most useful things I discovered is that you can control and accelerate the darkening process. In traditional Japanese practice, they would sometimes leave finished pieces on south-facing porches for weeks, letting the sun do its work gradually. But you don't have to wait that long. I found that a simple UV lamp, the kind you can buy for about $15 for nail curing or reptile terrariums, works remarkably well. Set the piece under a UV lamp for 4 to 6 hours between coats, and you'll see color development that would normally take days of natural sunlight. Temperature also matters. Warmer conditions speed up the oxidation. I've had the best results finishing in the summer when my shop stays around 75 to 80 degrees. But even in winter, you can place the piece near a heat source to help things along. The color will continue to develop for weeks after you've applied your final coat, so don't judge the final result on day one. I made that mistake on my first project. I thought the color was too light after 3 coats, so I kept adding more. By week 3, it was darker than I wanted. Start with 3 coats, give it a full week of ambient light, and then decide if you want to go deeper. The other variable is the age of your extract. Fresh kakishibu, just 7 to 10 days old, gives a lighter, more golden tone. Extract that's been fermenting for 6 months to a year produces a much deeper, more reddish brown. If you make a batch in the fall when persimmons are in season, you can bottle some for immediate use and set the rest aside to age. By the following summer, you'll have 2 very different finishes from the same batch. This next method is the one that really got me excited because it opens up a whole different range of color. If you combine kakishibu with iron acetate, you get a chemical reaction that turns the finished dark gray to jet black, depending on the concentration and the wood species. Iron acetate is incredibly easy to make at home. Take a handful of steel wool, the plain kind without soap, tear it into pieces, and drop it into a mason jar filled with plain white vinegar. Let it sit with the lid loosely on for about 5 to 7 days. The steel wool will dissolve and the liquid will turn a dark amber color. That's your iron acetate. Now here's where the magic happens. Apply a coat of kakishibu to your wood and let it dry. Then brush on the iron acetate solution. The tannin in the persimmon juice reacts with the iron to form iron tannate, which is a deep blue-black compound. The effect is immediate and dramatic. On white oak, which already has high tannin content, the result is a rich, true black that looks like ebony. On lighter woods, like maple or birch, you get a softer gray that's absolutely beautiful for contemporary furniture. I ebonized a white oak side table using this method last fall, and people genuinely cannot believe it's not a rare tropical hardwood. The color goes all the way through the surface layer because the reaction is happening inside the wood fiber, not on top of it. You can control the darkness by adjusting the concentration of your iron acetate, using less steel wool for a lighter solution, or by the number of tannin coats you apply before the iron. More tannin means a darker reaction. I'd recommend experimenting on scrap pieces of the same species you're planning to finish, because different woods react differently, and you want to dial it in before committing to your project piece. Once you've achieved the color you want, you need to protect the surface. Kakishibu on its own has some water resistance, which is why the Japanese used it on boats and umbrellas, but for furniture that's going to see daily use, you'll want a top coat. The best options I've found are pure tung oil or a hard wax oil. Both of these let the color show through without adding a plastic-looking film. Apply 2 to 3 thin coats of tung oil, letting each one cure for 24 hours, and you'll have a surface that's protected, beautiful, and still feels like real wood under your hand. I'd avoid polyurethane over kakishibu. In my experience, it adds a yellowish cast that fights with the natural warmth of the tannin finish. Shellac works well, too, if you want a bit more sheen, especially on decorative pieces that won't see heavy wear. Let me share some patterns I've noticed over the years, things I used to do myself that this tradition handles completely differently. No judgment here. I did all of these for longer than I'd like to admit. The first pattern is reaching for stain as the default way to add color. Most of us grab a can of stain because it's fast and predictable. But what kakishibu taught me is that the fastest path to color isn't always the best path to beauty. A tannin finish that takes a week to fully develop produces a result that a one-step stain simply cannot match. The color has dimension to it. The second pattern is sanding to extremely high grits before finishing. I used to take everything to 320 or even 400 grit before staining. With kakishibu, I found that stopping at 180 actually gives better results because the tannin needs slightly open pores to penetrate deeply. Over-sanding closes the surface and limits absorption. The third pattern is expecting the finish to look final the moment you apply it. Commercial stains dry to their finished color in minutes. Kakishibu takes days to reveal its true character. I had to learn patience, real patience, and once I did, the results were worth every minute of waiting. The fourth pattern is throwing away scraps without testing. With any reactive finish like this, the results vary by species, by the age of your extract, and even by the individual board. Now, I never apply Kakishibu to a project piece without running a test on offcuts first. It takes 10 minutes and saves hours of frustration. The good news is, once you see these patterns for what they are, you start approaching finishing as a craft in itself, not just the last chore before a project is done. Now for that bonus tip I promised at the beginning. This one involves the iron acetate reaction, and it's something I stumbled onto by accident. If you apply a very diluted coat of iron acetate to raw white oak before the Kakishibu, just a light wash, maybe 1 part iron solution to 4 parts water, it creates a subtle gray undertone in the wood. Then, when you apply the Kakishibu over that, the persimmon tannin reacts with the residual iron already in the fibers and produces a color that I can only describe as aged pewter with warmth underneath. It's this sophisticated, complex gray-brown that doesn't exist in any stain chart I've ever seen. I discovered it when I accidentally grabbed the wrong jar and applied iron acetate first on a test piece. I almost threw it away, but then I put the Kakishibu over it out of curiosity, and the result stopped me in my tracks. Try it on a piece of white oak scrap. Iron wash first, very diluted. Let it dry overnight. Then 3 coats of Kakishibu with sun exposure between each. Give it a week. I think you'll be as surprised as I was. One more thing before I let you go. I spent a long time gathering the best ancient Eastern woodworking methods I have come across, and I put them all into a book called Kenji's Workshop. 100 techniques that most modern woodworkers have never seen, with step-by-step photos and clear explanations you can actually follow in your shop. Scan the QR code on screen right now or grab it from the first link in the description. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one.